What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. At the beginning of August previously, an update to the champion roadmap was actually published announcing that EZREAL, Kayle, and Morgana were going to be the next reworks up on the chopping block. We'll get to Kayle and Morgana in another video, but today I wanted to focus a little bit more specifically on EZREAL, and more so just taking a look at everything there is to know about the upcoming future rework of EZREAL, as well as what we can almost certainly expect, and the few things here and there that have been already confirmed by Riot. So let's jump right into it, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it or let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for some more videos. EZREAL, I gotta say, has definitely been one of League of Legends' most popular champions throughout the years, and he's definitely a favorite to many, and for the most part he's seen as a champion that's pretty fun to play by a lot of players. Added in March 2010 as the 47th champion, EZREAL hasn't entirely received any major changes to his abilities since his release over the years. He used to have a lot more mechanics, but for the most part his abilities have kind of remained the same. You know, there hasn't been any like reworks or updates or anything like that. His ultimate used to actually heal his allies, as well as his W used to also heal his allies, and his W also used to slow enemy attack speeds, but I wouldn't say that his abilities have necessarily received like major changes. They, at least for the most part, have retained their primary components, and the majority of the removal of those mechanics on his kit was during Season 1 way back in the day, so they haven't really been attached to EZREAL's identity. At the very least, compared to many other beta champions, he certainly hasn't received that many changes, especially when you consider the changes to his actual mechanics and gameplay. He's been through a lot of different metas throughout the past with stuff like Blue EZREAL here and there, and he's had some times where he wasn't that strong, but he pretty much always seems to come back around due to just how versatile of a character he is and just how fun he is to play, really. With almost all of the other champions that were released during that era undergoing some kind of major ability, visual, or just full-on rework. In fact, only 7 champions released before EZREAL haven't received any major ability reworks or visual updates, with those champions being Morgana, who has a rework confirmed for her, Amumu, Rammus, Malphite, who's had reworks cancelled for him in the past, Blitzcrank, Dr. Mundo, who has a rework for him planned in the future, and Pantheon, who also had a rework cancelled for him in the past, and I believe Riot's also planning a rework for Amumu in the far out future, not anytime soon, like a mini rework, not a full rework, but anyway, this probably has to do with EZREAL's abilities being pretty straightforward and kind of simple, and they just all come together in a pretty cohesive style of gameplay that doesn't really introduce all of these major problems and issues that a lot of the original beta champion designs did. He just has 3 skill shots and kind of a escape. However, times change of course, and it's about time for EZREAL to get a much needed update. So the section of the champion roadmap dedicated to EZREAL is titled Bringing EZREAL Out of the Museum. And the quote from Riot is that EZREAL is an extremely popular champion, and his gameplay has held up well over the years. We didn't need a map to know that dramatically changing his abilities would be a disservice to one of League's most iconic marksmen. That said, we also know EZREAL players aren't in love with his current W, Essence Flux, so we'll be updating that ability to be more in line with his theme of an ace spellslinger, lining up shots, then knocking them down. EZREAL's fantasy of a young sharpshooting adventurer is pretty appealing, but once you get him in game, his models, animations, and voiceover don't really live up to the promise. We'll be rebuilding EZREAL's audio and visuals from the ground up to really deliver on that fantasy. So of course the main goal for this rework is mainly visual, to make him more thematically cohesive and to fit into the 2018 League of Legends style. The rework came about because of a shortage on the champion team, but not in the artist department. Since they knew most of the kit would be somewhat similar with EZREAL's rework, they wanted to tackle him right away because the art department, I guess, didn't really have all that much to do, even though the champion team was kind of swamped. So they started building the models and animations for EZREAL's rework right away, and this update's also planned to come out quite soon. We know this from a few posts by Riot Meddler, and he said that EZREAL's update will be after the Worlds patch, so current EZREAL, the pre-rework version, will be available for Worlds' play, and EZREAL's update will also be before the next new champion, which does mean the update isn't happening until after September 27th, which is the day of the World Championship Finals, and it also confirms that the EZREAL update is different enough that they would hold it until after the Worlds is over, but it's also confirmed that EZREAL's update is going to be the next one released before Kayle and Morgana, before the next new champion, before a whole bunch of other things that we'll talk about in different videos, I guess. So the EZREAL update is also confirmed to be a full visual and gameplay update by Riot Reeve 3, who said, of course it's basically a full VGU, but with minor or possibly no gameplay changes. We know the last part is kind of leaning into the more minor style of rework, because Riot Reeve 3 goes on to say that they essentially started building the model and animations and everything else at the same time they explored a new W, which isn't very typical of a rework with League of Legends. Usually they design the entire gameplay kit and then build the model and animations afterwards, because they aren't fully confident that the gameplay itself is going to work out. So of course, let's talk about that W. It does definitely stick out as the least cool and useful ability in EZREAL's arsenal ever since they removed the attack speed debuff on opponents way back. I think it was like season 3. If you're playing AD EZREAL, the only purpose it really served is to just give you stacks of your passive, or I guess buff your allies' attack speed, but on an AD carry, buffing your allies' attack speed isn't exactly the most useful effect. You could use it to buff yourself, I guess, but you'd also need to burn your E to jump into the trajectory of it, or have some kind of other mobility effect, which is just weird and is a difficult setup for not a great payoff. If you were AP EZREAL though, of course his W was really useful because it has a 0.8 AP scaling, much higher than his Q at 0.4, and really just the W kind of functions as just the main AP EZREAL ability, and AP EZREAL hasn't really been all that meta for quite some time. The plan to rework his W definitely leads some AP EZREAL mains to maybe worry a little bit, but Riot Meddler has said that he has played AP EZREAL on the updated version and finds it to be similar in power and satisfaction to the live version. So whatever his new W is, as well as the rest of his gameplay, it's going to retain a lot of the magic damage component, unless they're buffing his AP scaling at least on some of his other abilities, but he'll definitely still be viable as an AP champion. That's kind of the key component here. I'm interested in seeing how the W plays out. There's a lot of different directions and things that they could maybe do. On one hand, they could easily keep it as a damage source and make it more useful to AD EZREAL players somehow. Hitting enemies with the W could maybe put like a mark on the target, giving them vision, or maybe like bonus damage if you can then follow up and land the Q or something. And maybe the bonus damage is like based on ability power, so that AP EZREAL still get a nice bonus, but then AD EZREAL still have this nice like flat gameplay mechanic where the W is useful. Or maybe the ability could go in a completely different direction and try to implement like an adventurer side of EZREAL's character. Maybe he finds like hidden relics on the map or something, but that's kind of more just like Bard's passive, and I don't really see that making all that much sense. I definitely think having a design where he lands the ability on an opponent and then has to follow up in some way, maybe with an auto attack or some different ability, I think that's probably the most likely version I want to think would happen with it, but there isn't any specific information as for what his W is going to be, other than that it's going to be a different ability when the rework releases. That's pretty much like the main point. I would say that there's probably some minor tweaks that are going to happen to the rest of his abilities, perhaps a change to his E so that it doesn't do damage anymore, because that was always kind of a weird effect that it does damage, but for the most part his kit is pretty cohesive and isn't really going to see that much change. He's got a lot of really cool kind of ways that his abilities work together, like the cooldown reduction on his Q, and his passive is really cool too, so it's not likely that EZREAL's going to receive a lot of changes outside of his W, but as what's typical with reworks, he'll definitely get some minor tweaks here and there for sure. As for EZREAL's visual design, Riot is staying pretty close to the original as far as we know, and apparently his old recolors are actually going to be a lot better, specifically Nottingham EZREAL. The new Pulsefire EZREAL as well for sure is going to get a really awesome update. Nottingham is just one that was specifically mentioned by Riot Reeve 3 to be getting a really significant upgrade, and Reeve 3 also mentioned that a lot of the newer EZREAL skins aren't changing all that much since they're pretty good already, and base EZREAL doesn't really shift all that much into the new EZREAL other than just kind of getting a full, like a new paint job kind of thing, you know, just a straight up upgrade, but not really much of a change. You could probably use a few more accessories or things or trinkets on his model, since the base EZREAL tends to look a little bit plain, which is typical of the early champions from League of Legends. But the biggest fix that could happen on EZREAL is really just the particle effect difference in skins. His skins have a little bit of inconsistencies in the particle size, like Pulsefire EZREAL's Q ability particle is a lot bigger than the original skin particle, which can lead to some kind of weird scenarios. Obviously, it doesn't increase any hitboxes or anything like that, but the inconsistency in the particle size can be kind of annoying or unexpected to play against. Pulsefire Ezreal, though, was the first ever Ultimate Tier skin released way back in 2012. I remember when it came out, it was just the coolest thing ever, and nowadays it looks so outdated. So it's probably going to look super, super awesome with the new update. Probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most with Ezreal's rework. It's honestly just going to be so awesome, and I can't wait for it to come out. Either way, that's just about all the information on Ezreal's rework that we have so far. Let me know what you think, if it's a good idea that they're maybe keeping changes to Ezreal kind of minimal and insignificant compared to a lot of the other recent champion updates. What would you maybe like to see on Ezreal's W? Definitely let us know in the comment section below, and let us know what you think. And if you want to see what we can dig up for the Kayle and Morgana rework, we're going to have a video coming out for that in the future, so hit that subscribe button, click the notification icon, and you'll know when that next video goes live. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want, leave a like, a comment, hit all the buttons, you know the drill, and I'll see you guys next time.